What's good, everyone? OJ here. Welcome to my first impressions of Bayonetta 3 on the Nintendo Switch. I've been playing this game pretty much non-stop straight. I didn't quite beat it. I got about 5-6 hours or so into the game, but I will admit that a lot of that time was spent on replaying some missions, doing some challenges, getting bodied on expert, and really just getting a feel for the game, because there's just a number of brand new gameplay mechanics and different things that completely change up the Bayonetta experience, and I definitely want to go over those and a bit more. But before we get into that, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, and click that notification bell to get my videos first. Now let's go ahead and first start off with the elephant in the room. I know a lot of you guys have asked about the performance and graphics, especially after seeing stuff like Digital Foundry talk about it, and I don't really let too much of what they do affect my own experience, so please take that into account. I don't have frame rate machines or resolution machines or pixel counting or frame counting. I don't do any of that. All I kind of go off of is just based off of my own gameplay and how it feels while I play the game. And there's definitely some parts where it is uneven, and it would be nice if it was actually locked in at that 60, but from what I've been playing, it's still very smooth when it comes down to it, and it still runs at a high frame rate. It's definitely above 30 frames per second, and every single time that I'm playing the game, it feels like it's just kind of fluidly going from one thing to another, with some slowdown when certain big things happen. So it's definitely there, and it's going to be based on how you perceive frame rates in games. Some people just kind of play, it's not an issue. For me, while I'm playing, it wasn't necessarily a big issue for me because I'm having so much fun just playing the game, in the gameplay and everything, which we're going to talk about in just a bit. But it's definitely something to make note of. Now, I don't think that it's like the worst. Some people are kind of going in, and I don't really think it's like that, but it's definitely there. So also just keep that in mind. When it comes down to the graphics, I know there's been some talk about that as well. And personally, me, like, I see the environments being bigger and like the Demon Slave and stuff like that looking really cool, because you can have 3 that you can switch between on the fly in terms of that. And the cutscenes look good. So far with the graphics, I feel that they're pretty good. I know it's maybe not the best on Nintendo Switch. Astral Chain probably looks a bit better, but those environments are a bit smaller too. So just giving you guys a little bit of a comparison, especially when you compare it to Bayonetta 2, definitely smaller environments that you fight in, but maybe a little bit more refined in some areas. But overall, I do like the look in the environments in terms of how you fight and how it looks in Bayonetta 3 over the previous games, and definitely better than the like shade of brown filter that was on Bayonetta 1 pretty much on all platforms. But overall, graphics definitely could be better. It would be nice if they were, but I don't think it's a terrible or bad looking game overall. There's definitely a lot worse. Now, let's go ahead and get into something that I really like about Bayonetta 3, and that is the presentation and also the music in the game. This is one of the best things about Bayonetta 3. I love the epic non-stop climax action of this game. That's kind of like how you describe it, because it presents it as this larger than life multiverse type of Bayonetta game where you're kind of going from one period to another and kind of hopping through and just seeing crazy things happen at any point. And it's kind of taking you on a roller coaster ride where you're doing all sorts of crazy things. So how they present it to you and how they intertwine the battle themes and the more serious themes and the other things that happen that I don't want to spoil really just makes me smile. It makes me smile. It makes me really enjoy how they put this game together. You can definitely see, though, if you combine what I talked about with the frame rate and the graphics, the presentation, the music, kind of where some of that might have been lost with the development that this game went through. But overall, I think the package is actually extremely good when you really kind of delve and dig into it, especially after that beginning of the game. Now, the meat and potatoes of any game when it comes to the Bayonetta series is the gameplay. That is the most important thing. If the gameplay isn't up to snuff, that is going to be a problem. And I think that this is where Bayonetta changes things up so much from Bayonetta 1 and Bayonetta 2 to this game. the Demon Slave ability, in addition to no longer being able to equip weapons on your hands and your feet, and you more switch between weapon sets of the same weapon or just one weapon, really changes up the mechanics. Now, I understand now that I'm playing the game why they took that out, because now you have a full plethora and array of demon slaves that you can switch between that also have their own combos and skills. And I think it would have got a little bit too much if you have weapons on the hands and feet and different combos, and you can organize all of those and rearrange all of those, plus the demon slaves intertwining, because you can do combos, then come in with the demon slave attack or just have them out. So the way that they've done this, I think they've done it in a fashion to where it's not going to overwhelm you, but at the same time offer a lot of variety and depth as you play through. And to me, that's the biggest and best new addition that I've seen so far in Bayonetta 3 is the demon slaves, and the fact that you can fight and attack and do your normal combos that you're used to with your big witch times or wicked weaves, but then also you can add in those extra attack with the demon slaves and then give you a full suite and array of upgrading there. And speaking of upgrading, I think that this has been handled extremely well when it comes to the new skill tree and layout. Now, before in the past, you used to have to go to the gates of hell and then you buy the different moves from Rodon. So it was really kind of one of those things where you can do just every now and then. That'd be in between the chapters or if you find them in between the levels. But now at this point, you can open up the menu, you can go to your skills, and from there, you can collect these orbs and you can just upgrade from right there. So it gives you more flexibility in how you want to customize Bayonetta. There's a lot of character customization with the colors and outfits and all sorts of stuff there. So that's pretty cool. And I will say with the gameplay, I think that it's dope that when you actually have your demon slaves out, that they have a variety of different combos that they can do. Like at first I just thought that it was going to be, okay, you can just fight, because I didn't really spoil myself on looking through all the different reviews and all of that. I just went over a review roundup and just read small parts of their like final statements on the games, but I didn't go through and know everything about this game. I didn't look at the leaked footage or anything. I just really wanted to experience it myself and not really have too many other things influence how I am perceiving the game and how I am playing the game. And from what I've seen here with the demon slave stuff, it is even further beyond what I thought it was going to be. And I know I'm focusing on that a lot, but with the gameplay, it really factors into it. And I do like the fact that you can, just like previous games, you can swap between your weapon sets, and it gives you more options, especially with the demon slave and demon attacks, to be able to switch between to build up your combo meter, because the pure platinums are back, you know, the grading is back, so you want to make sure that you get the best rating per verse. There's a lot of exploration in this game. Now, Bayonetta games have always had separate corridors and areas and places that you can access, but this game seems to take it up a notch or two, especially when you can transform into the different demons that you have and platform and do other things. It's actually really cool. I like it. And I like the fact that they added in that variety into the gameplay, because when you're going through the levels, you're kind of searching through everything. But like I said, the environments are a lot bigger than before, and it kind of all factors into it. They've added more puzzles in this one. They've added more exploration. They've added more platforming than ever before. It really was, or is, a Bayonetta game that tried to be a lot more than the previous Bayonetta games by a long shot. And I know that they showed that off in some of the trailers and everything, but I didn't expect it to be as prevalent as it is here. And it's not a bad thing at all. I think that having that variety in the game is welcomed, and it would be really cool to see where they go with it going forward in the future. Now, I do want to talk about some other things with the gameplay, and that is the controls. I find the controls to be buttery and silky smooth for the most part. Yes, like I said, like the frame rate can maybe interfere at times with that, so that is a bit of a knock on the game. But as you're playing and as you kind of get used to the action, it does a good job of recovering and making sure nothing feels really stuttery or jank while you play. Like I said, very similar to Bayonetta 2. So I do enjoy that about the controls and the gameplay. You can switch between different types if you want. So if you don't like the default setup, it would have been nice to be able to kind of custom map your buttons. That would have been a good thing. That's not in there, but they do have multiple different types that you can do. Now, I do want to talk about Bayonetta way more. Obviously, the controls, the gameplay, all that's very fun. The combos, tons of variety with everything there. Very, very good, and I can't wait till I beat the game and kind of get all the different type of stuff. Because right now, like I said, about 4 or 5 hours in or so, depending. Like I said, I'm not sure because I was doing a lot of side quests and doing other things. But I want to talk about this extra stuff with Jeanne. So Jeanne, she has her own little segments where you're going to find a scientist named Sigurd, right? And I haven't talked too much about story in this game just because I don't want to spoil it for you guys, and story's not necessarily a big factor in here, but there's a bunch of multiverses. And in these multiverses, there's all sorts of Bayonettas that are out there, and there's this thing that's wiping them out. So it's up to you to stop them from doing that, but you need this scientist named Sigurd, and that's what Jeanne is off to do while Bayonetta is fighting this evil. And these segments are really, really cool. I like the stealth aspects. It reminds me of like a Shadow Complex / Metal Gear Solid 2D style, but with Jeanne. So I like the stealth attacks. I like kind of going through and hiding and going into vents. I mean, it's really, really fun. Very, very fun. I don't know the frame rate there, guys, so don't kill me on that one, but it feels like it's smooth and it's locked in for the most part. Maybe one of you guys can confirm in the chat, but no, I really, really enjoy those parts, and I can't wait to kind of see more of that. I think that that could be its own little side thing or DLC if they really wanted to make a full game out of that. So I don't know, maybe the whole thing with the whole Jeanne spin-off game that Helena Taylor was trying to say in her weird videos that she put up when it comes to lying about Bayonetta and the pay and all that, maybe that actually does happen when it comes down to it. But I do love those segments with Jeanne. I think it's really cool. Now, I haven't had a ton of time to really get into the Viola gameplay, but from the little bit that I have played, she plays really well. She plays really well, and it's fun to use her. She's a little bit different when it comes to the torture attacks and the witch time and stuff like that. Very, very different than Bayonetta, but still very fun. But I'm not going to speak too much about her until I actually kind of go through and upgrade her more and get into it, because I got a number of different demon slaves and different stuff with Bayonetta, and just some weird things. Like the weirdest one was like a train. It was like a train. Like you can do different type of attacks with the train and all that. So it's really weird, but it's also really fun at the same time in terms of the traversal and kind of how the game is. So I'm really enjoying my gameplay with Bayonetta so far. I understand some of the different aspects when it comes to like frame rate. That's definitely there. Some people might feel it more than others. Me personally, as long as the input latency is good and the gameplay overall is smooth, I necessarily didn't have too much trouble with it. And once again, I just really love the presentation, how the gameplay flows in this game, and what they did to kind of make it like the most epic looking gameplay because of the demon slaves and because of how huge monsters can just appear out of nowhere and fight. And some of the kaiju battles and things that they've done here is just crazy. It's just like a crazy epic scale. So far, Bayonetta is fantastic. Definitely not perfect game, but awesome game so far. One of the best action games in the early gameplay that I have so far. One of the best action games that I've played when it comes to the first number of hours in the roller coaster ride. But I still have more to play. I'll have another video once I've beaten the game and kind of went through and collected as much as I can in the first playthrough and everything, and then give you guys like my full final thoughts and everything. But so far, so good. If you're looking for a phenomenal action game to play on the Nintendo Switch, the Bayonetta games are fantastic. 1, 2, and 3. Go out there and pick it up if you want to. So what are your thoughts when it comes to Bayonetta 3? Let me know in the comment section below. Alright guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and we will see you for the next video. Peace.